Hey everybody, it's Mr. Greg here, back for another Submissions for Smorgie Live. It's actually our 1-year anniversary tonight, so we're super excited to be celebrating. So we thought for the 1-year anniversary we needed to do something epic. So I asked my friends Chad from Male Kindergarten Teacher and Chris from Famous and First to join us. So Chad flew in from Michigan to hang out with us, and Chris is joining us live from New York, where he's spending the holidays with his family. So we're super excited for tonight. So a year ago, I had this crazy idea. I was on winter break, looking for something to do. And so I said to Jason, I'm like, I think you can do live broadcasts on YouTube. So maybe we should do a live broadcast just for fun. And so we thought, okay, that'll be fun. It'll be something new and different. Let's give it a shot. So we got it all set up. And if you ever go back and watch the first recording from the first Submissions for Smorgie Live, you see that it goes really, really badly at the beginning because we didn't understand that there's a slight delay. And so we couldn't see that it was actually broadcasting live, but everybody else could see us. And so for about the first 5 or 7 minutes of that very first Submissions Live, you can hear me and Jason like cussing and we're mad and we're frustrated because it's not working. But the whole time, everybody could see what was happening. And finally, somebody sent us a text and they were like, we can see and hear everything that's happening. But we've finally figured out the technology, and we've got this pretty much down to a science. As long as Mr. Greg doesn't have to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the live show, we're good.
Which, oh my God, that stresses me out so bad because it leaves me alone.
It's only happened once.
Yeah, well, that was enough.
Yeah. And so this is actually the first time that we've brought in somebody from somewhere else using the technology. So that's exciting. So I have to give a big shout out to Chad and Chris for joining us. So before we get started, we'll do a couple of housekeeping things. Tonight, we have $1,000 in prizes that we're giving away.
Whoop, whoop.
So first, we're giving away 1 year to ESGI. And so if you don't know about ESGI, it's an online one-on-one assessment tool for your classroom. It's phenomenal. I know Chad and Chris both use it, so they can both vouch for the fact that it's phenomenal and makes your life so easy. Everybody should have it. And what I'm really excited about tonight is that my friends at Alive Studios have generously donated a Letters Alive kit to give away. And I actually just posted some videos on YouTube of my class using Letters Alive. And what it is, it's an augmented reality program for your classroom. And augmented reality is basically 3D without the glasses. So, and yes, we love Alive Studios. And so it's phenomenal technology. The kids love it. My kids are so excited for it. Even every day they ask me to show an animal because each of the letters has an animal associated with it. Yeah, you can show Gertie. So here's Gertie. And so the animals come alive in 3D to help the kids learn their letters and sounds. This is an $800 product that somebody's going to win tonight. So make sure you head over to the blog, thekindergartensmorgasbord.com. There's a link to a raffle copter, so you can enter to win the prizes. We'll give those away at the very end tonight. You do have to be present in the chat to win. So if we pick your name and you're not here, sorry, we have to pick somebody else. So you have to be here to win. So make sure you head over to the blog and get entered. And the giveaway will close right around 8:15 or so, or 9:15 Eastern, because we're going for a full 90 minutes tonight, because that's what we did on the first Submissions for Smorgie Live. We just started talking and ended up going, Jason finally stopped it at 90 minutes. Yeah. So we're going to go for 90 minutes tonight. Chad and Chris are here, so start asking those questions.
A couple other things that I want to throw in here really quick before we get going with questions regarding the giveaway. A couple of people in the chat are saying that they're having a hard time figuring out how to actually enter. So what you do is you go to thekindergartensmorgasbord.com. When you get there, you're going to click on the first blog post, which is going to be a very easy link to see. It's going to be right there on the page. You can't miss it. You click on that. It's going to take you in to that blog post. Once you get there, you're either going to see a button that says enter, or you will see a link that says raffle copter giveaway. You can click on either one of those two links and it will take you to the Rafflecopter. Once you get there, you're going to enter your email address. Once you enter your email address, you are entered for the drawings for both. You only have to enter your email address one time. The drawings will be separate drawings, and you will only win one or the other. So head over there now to do that. I just wanted to make sure that I clearly expressed that, because we have 163 people watching us right now.
Wow.
And we do not have 163 submissions for our 163, what's it called?
Entries.
Entries, thank you. Entries in the drawing. So, and I know some people are having problems. So if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. But we're good to go now.
All right, so before we get started with questions, let's give Chad and Chris a minute to talk about themselves a little bit, talk about their blog and what they're doing. So I'll let Chad go first.
All right, my name's Chad, and I am a kindergarten teacher in Michigan. My blog is malekindergartenteacher.com. I'm kind of a new, recent blogger. I've probably done it for about a year right now, but I really enjoy doing it. And I blogged on Ellison. That's one of my big things that I like to do. I like to make crafts, so you can see a lot of crafts on my blog. Also, I'm working on products and things, but I'm new to the thing, so I'm learning a lot from Greg and Chris, and we're also part of the Guys at Primary too. So we met in Vegas, and we kind of decided to create this blog called theguysatimary.com. And that's kind of how we came to be.
.com.
Did you see Miss V's comment?
Oh, we can't see the chat.
Miss V actually said .com.
All right, Chris.
I had trouble laughing when he said Vegas. I can't Vegas. I'm Chris Pombania. I'm a first grade teacher in Orlando, Florida. This is my 4th year teaching. I'm also a teacher blogger at Famous in First. I was horrible at blogging this past year, but I've gotten better this week.
Right?
What'd you say?
A whole 12 times, right?
Yeah, I know. A whole 12. Well, no. Now I think I'm up to like 15 now, counting this week. So I'm doing great. 2016 will be better. And I also have a show on the I Teach TV network that Greg also has a show on, Lights, Camera, Teach. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started.
So we have a couple of questions that I want to start with regarding classroom management. These questions are very similar, so I'm just going to ask them both together, if that's okay, and then you can kind of answer them both. The first one is from Robin. She says she works at a school that has the highest poverty rates in her whole parish. She has a lot of boys and girls that when they get so mad, they'll start slapping and punching their friends. This year, the group has been by far the most challenging class in a time. She needs some help. Second question is from Miss Bina, who says she's wondering if you have any tips or suggestions on classroom behavior management. This year, she has 4 kids that disrupt the entire class from the moment they walk in to the moment they leave. They don't respond to anything. She leaves every day completely fed up. Help before I lose my mind.
I think classroom management, first of all, I think as teachers, we all know that classroom management is the key. Like nothing else happens until we have classroom management in place. A couple of things that might help. Number one, me and Chad were talking about this earlier. Building that sense of community in your classroom is vital. And for me, that starts with morning meeting. If you're not doing morning meeting, it's something you should definitely look into. It's a great way to start the day. It brings your whole class together. You get to share about what's happening, and I think that's so important. Some of that behavior could be attention seeking, and so if they have the opportunity maybe in the mornings to share some of that stuff that's happening, that might help some of that attention seeking. But definitely try to build the community, build the relationships with the kids, because really nothing else matters until they know that you love them and care about them. And in the past, I've had those very challenging kids, and one of the things that I found most effective is sitting down with them one-on-one. Whether it's having lunch with them, or even sitting with them in the cafeteria and eating lunch, finding out what they're interested in, what they like, really get to know them and build that relationship so that you can really push them to do the right thing. When we're talking about hitting and slapping, those are things that in the past I've dealt with, and I've always gone to admin with those kind of things because I think it becomes a safety issue, and so I want admin involved in case something does happen. And of course, procedures and expectations, but really work on building that community and building the relationships, because once you've made those connections, the kids want to do better for you. And so I think for me, community and relationships are key to the classroom management.
And I'll just add to that, like reviewing your rules and routines and procedures. Like if you notice that, they're not coming in how they're supposed to, maybe you need to, not necessarily the whole class might not need to review them, but review it with the students that maybe need to, review those routines and know how to come in the classroom and teach them, this is how I want you to come in, this is how I want you to sit down. Just review those every day and hope that helps.
Chris, what do you have?
Yeah, just building off what Greg said, I will always, if I'm having a student that's kind of being difficult or not following directions, I will always try to find out if they have a football game, a soccer game, dance recital, something outside of school coming up, and talk to their parents and surprise them at that. I don't tell them I'm coming, I tell the parent I'm coming. And once they see you there and they know that you really care about them and that you're cheering them on, even though they might have not had the best day, they're going to work harder for you in your classroom. So that's something that I love doing. And you don't have to stay the whole time. Just showing up is awesome for them.
And for so many of our kids, I think just showing up in general, whether it's, at an event or whether it's at school, they just need somebody to show up and to cheer them on and to be their biggest supporter.
All right, next question. Moving on to Emily. She wants to know what you use for word work, and do you have units that you follow?
In my classroom, and this is actually a district mandate for us, we use, it's called Words Their Way. You can get the books on Amazon. I think the books run about 18 to 20 bucks. But what it is that the kids are doing word sorts, and each week it's focused on a different feature, is what they call them. Starts off with beginning sounds, and it moves all the way up. Really, it goes all the way through 4th grade. And so you can easily differentiate it. So in my classroom right now, I have 3 different groups doing their word study, Words Their Way, every day, and it's differentiated. There's also another book on Amazon called Word Journeys that you can buy that helps you it has an assessment piece that helps you differentiate your Words Their Way. I've found that Words Their Way, where I see the biggest impact with Words Their Way is in writing, because one of the things we do every day is the kids have to write 5 of their words, and they're really working on stretching out the sounds and hearing the sounds. So that's made a tremendous difference in our writing. But that's what I use. It's Words Their Way. It's on Amazon. And I actually have a couple of videos that I need to post of my kids doing their word study. Chad, what about you? What do you use?
I don't know, when I think of word work, I think of like sight words. Is that kind of where you're going with it? For my district, we have a curriculum, the Imagine It curriculum, and we have 50 sight words, which my kids call popcorn words. And so I actually have a popcorn, machine in my classroom, and I have popcorn pillows. And then
so cool.
We introduce a new popcorn word, probably about 2 popcorn words a week, and we have 50 total. And I incorporate them in my centers. That's a huge thing that I do. We also, in writing is a huge part. My kids are expected to, know how to spell them, how to write them. And then also every single day, part of my morning meeting, morning message routine, I choose one student. I have a bulletin board that has all of the popcorn pieces on it. And then one student is the pointer, and then another student is a microphone. So they get to use the microphone, and the pointer points to each of the words. And then my microphone says the word, and then all my students say the word also. And then afterwards, I ask them to spell it. So that's mostly what I do with word work.
What about you, Chris?
And Words Their Way actually was one of my textbooks in college. So it's not required for us, but I do pull a lot of things out of that for word work and things like that. For my word work centers, I've tried a bunch of different things over every year, but this year I found the thing that found worse, and I found it on a blog somewhere that whatever words we're using that week, so usually it's a phonics skill since I'm a 1st grade teacher, so whatever words we're using that week, I have 4 different bins that has the same thing in each bin. So I know word work sometimes if you have magnetic letters or wiki sticks or Play-Doh or whatever you're gonna do, sometimes we kind of just put it all out there. But I changed that this year and just put, if it's wiki sticks, that week it's wiki sticks in every single bin, so they're building their words with that. Then the next week I'll just switch out what's inside the box and I'll put magnetic letters inside and they're using that, or Scrabble tiles. So they're not choosing their favorite thing every week. They just kind of get to it and get to work right away, really working on the words and not so much worried about what toy they're going to be using to do it. Exactly. So that's worked for me this year.
Okay, next question comes from Miss Class 2012. It's an ESGI question, actually. She wants to know if any of the 3 of you use ESGI and still have to do other standardized testing like PALS. Is it just adding more testing for her kids?
I think we all three use ESGI in our classroom. And for me, my kids also have to do Ames Web. So, but that's the only testing we do. So they do it beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. And then all the other, and we do running records every 9 weeks. But so ESGI is the only assessments that I have to do other than the Ames Web that the kids are doing. So for me, it's just ESGI is all I'm doing in my classroom. And the thing about ESGI is that I'm using it for my weekly assessments. I'm using it for our grade level uses it for our common formative assessments every week. And I use it for my report card assessments. So it's covering all of my assessments. So it's stuff that I'm going to be doing anyway, but ESGI just makes it quick and easy. The data is right there in front of me. I can send home the letters and the reports to parents. I can email the data right to my principal if I need to. And what I like about ESGI is that I can pull up the data and totally tailor my instruction to right where my kids are at that moment. And because it's so easy to use and so quick, if I wanted to do a quick assessment on Wednesday to see how we did with the skill, can totally do that. It takes no time, it's easy. And then on Thursday, I can readjust my instruction to meet the kids right where they are.
And like Greg said, I also use ESGI, but we also do have some other assessments that we need to use. That's part of our curriculum, our Imagine It curriculum. There's some benchmarks that you have to give every couple of units, and it focuses on like the primary areas in our reading curriculum. So there's like comprehension, grammar usage and mechanics, letter sounds, letter naming, blending, segmenting, things like that. And I use these to kind of differentiate my lessons and my centers, and it kind of gives me a good idea of where each child is at and what I need to do as a teacher, and if I need to change any of my instruction or focus on something more specifically with a student. But I know you mentioned PALS. That's something that for our reading intervention groups, and at my school we have a 30-minute reading intervention group, and I know a couple of the groups in that reading intervention group they do use PALS, but it's more for more strategic and intensive type of interventions. It's not, we don't necessarily use it for any type of assessment.
What about you, Chris?
We have a lot of assessments in my district, but ESGI makes everything easier because I've just taken those assessments and put some of them into ESGI and shared them with my team, and it's gone a lot quicker. And the one thing about ESGI the other assessments don't give you is that parent report and that parent feedback. And like Greg said, it is so quick that you can literally test that student the day you have a conference, you have that afternoon. You can retest them on their sight words or retest them on whatever you're working on automatically, and then have that ready for the parent right away. And your other assessments won't give you that. You'll kind of have to go through the data to get that report. So it has saved so much time in that aspect. So even if you're worried about all these other assessments and having time for it, it takes no time at all once you set it up. So I definitely recommend it.
And you also can send home personalized flashcards.
Mm-hmm.
So when so if you've assessed somebody and they've missed some things, you can send home those flashcards so they can practice. But it really does end up saving you so much time. So you can focus more on instruction. I think ESGI, they said it saves you about 400 hours a year. See, look, 400 hours. So it's definitely worth checking out. If you're not using it, you can sign up for a 60-day free trial. And I have a link on my blog to where you can sign up for that 60-day free trial. And once you give it a shot, you're going to be hooked.
And once you go through that link on the blog, not only do you get a 60-day free trial, but you also get $40 off if you decide that you want to purchase. So instead of $200, you're looking at $160. Rochelle from ESGI is also in the chat with us tonight. She'll be here to answer any questions that you have. She's actually commenting right now in the chat. So any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to Rochelle, and she'll be happy to help you out.
And while we're talking about that, also in the chat tonight, Cynthia, who is the CEO of Letters Alive, and LA, who does the marketing for Letters Alive. So they're both in the chat also. So if you have questions about Letters Alive, augmented reality, Math Alive, you can ask them in the chat and they'll be glad to help you out. So thank you to Alive Studios and ESGI. not only for sponsoring tonight, but for being part of the chat and being here to answer your questions.
Speaking of ESGI and Letters Alive, if you haven't entered the drawing, just a reminder to do that. Be sure to go to the kindergartensmorgasbord.com, click on the first blog post, then you'll click on enter, or you'll click on Rafflecopter giveaway. You can enter your email address, or you can enter via Facebook, but be sure to go and do that as soon as you can. Moving on to the next question. This one is from Betty. She wants to know how you deal with negative Nancy's, either on your team or on your admin team in your school.
I think the three of us have talked about this quite a bit, and I know Chris wrote about it in his blog yesterday. The sad thing is they're in every school. Like, I've never met a teacher or, you know, a blogger who hasn't had the negative Nancy's. For me, I've learned to just go to my classroom and do what I'm going to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what the other teachers think. It's not really about what my admin thinks. It's really about what I'm doing for my kids. Because at the end of the day, my job is to give my kids the best possible education I can that day. And so I've had to learn, and I've had to toughen up. And I know Chris talked about this in his blog yesterday, about like we're sensitive. And so when people say those things, it hurts and it stings. And as bloggers, we deal with that also from people who, you know, maybe didn't like what we blogged about or what we shared or something. But really, at the end of the day, it's not about the other people. And at the end of the day, it's not even really about us. It's really all about the kids. And so for me, like, I just keep myself in my classroom as much as possible, because that's where I'm happy and that's where the kids are, and the kids are happy and we're having fun. And I know that what I'm doing is working. And that's all that matters, because as long as it's working for my kids, it doesn't really matter what other people think.
You took the words out of my mouth, basically.
Now, I know Chris has some things to say about this, so we'll let Chris talk.
You did a good job. But the one thing I would say that I've done is when that happens and someone's negative around you, the first thing you want to do is just get it off your chest and tell someone about it. And that's probably the worst thing to do. So what I've done is just have that one person. So I'm sure Greg's person is Jason, obviously. So if something's bothering you, you just go to that one person, tell them, and then that's it. You told the one person, you got it off your chest, and then it's done. So just find that person, whether it's your significant other, your best friend. My person is my roommate. We work at the same school, but I know she's not going to tell anyone anything. So if something's bothering me or someone said it, I'm just going to tell that one person, and then I'm not going to mention it again. But while it's happening, it's hard to ignore it. It is so hard to ignore it. And it can kind of ruin your school day if it's in the middle of the day or something and someone says something that's just negative and it just brings you down. But just knowing that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, like Greg said, is definitely going to carry you through.
And I think something else that's important for all of us is to surround ourselves with people who encourage us and support us and who push us to do better. And surround ourselves with people that insulate us from that negativity. I know there's been a lot of talk this year about finding your tribe. And I think that's so important for all of us, is that we need to find those teachers that have that same attitude and who want to give it all for the kids and who want to think outside of the box and who want to push you and want to be pushed to do better and bigger things. And I can say that, you know, I'm crazy blessed to have met so many amazing people and who have become such great friends. You know, Chris and Chad are two of my best blogging buddies, and, you know, couldn't do what I do without them. So you definitely need to surround yourself with people that are going to make you better, and positive, happy people who encourage you and support you no matter what.
And I'll touch on this too, because I know that you mentioned about like negative Nancy's in the classroom in terms of students. Maybe I think really just focusing on the positives. For if you're being positive, then they're gonna see that and they're gonna feel that. And, you know, I think just showing them that we really need to speak in positive terms in our classroom, and that we don't really, you know, want to talk negatively towards others or about what we're doing. Of course, as teachers, we want to make things fun and engaging. And I think that just showing them that, you know, learning is fun by knowing your students and knowing their interests, that will definitely help alleviate some of that negativeness in the classroom.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, we can keep talking.
Well, here's the thing. I just want everyone that's in the chat to know we have almost 200 people in here. There's lots of questions flying my way. There's no way we're going to get to all of them. I am doing my best to keep up with them, and we will get to as many of them as we can. but we've only answered 4 so far, and there's probably been 50 or more. Just keep that in mind. If we don't get to your questions, my apologies, but I will get to as many of them as I can.
And what we always do, we always save the chat transcript, so we'll have it. And I'll make sure Chad and Chris get a copy of that so that we can all try to answer questions, maybe on Facebook and Instagram and blog posts and stuff. So if we don't get to your question live, make sure to keep checking back on our blogs and social media, and we'll try to get those answered.
That being said, moving on to the next question. Really quickly, each of the 3 of you, what are some things that you can't imagine doing without in your classroom?
Wow.
I know that's a tough one.
Can't.
I say quickly.
I can't imagine doing it without my smartboard. I had a smartboard in my classroom, moved to another classroom, didn't have a smartboard. Totally, like I couldn't. I need that. I need my smartboard. Also got to have my smelly markers and my glitter. But really, the smartboard, everything I do is based on that smartboard. So I really need my smartboard.
I mean, you're talking more products here. I was thinking more like at centers. For me, I can't live without centers in my classroom because that's where I can really meet my students' needs, and I can pull students and work one-on-one, or I can pull small groups and focus on a skill that maybe, they're struggling with. And so centers allow me to challenge those students who, maybe are, quickly finishing all their work, and to really, focus on maybe things that are more their level. And then on the other hand, students who are struggling, I can really, pinpoint exactly what skills they need to work on. So centers is probably my biggest thing that I can't live without. But if we're talking about products, I don't know, I have lots. I have a Xyron machine. That's probably one of my favorites.
That makes stickers, right?
Yeah, you can get film, and it can make things sticky, or you can add like magnets, make things magnets. There's lots of different things. It's really cool.
All right, Chris, what about you?
Mine, smartboard too, and my boogie boards. I love using my boogie boards all day, every day. So if one time they were in a box and I didn't know what to do, they were like hidden on top of my closet, and I just like needed something. So my boogie board.
Yeah, I love the boogie boards.
Okay, I have multiple questions from people wanting to know about supplies and community supplies, especially. Do the students have their own? How do you deal with students going to gather their supplies all at the same time, fighting over the colors, etc.?
So in my classroom, because we have no tables and no desks, we have community supplies. So everything that the kids need is kept on a shelf in the back of the room. And so whatever they need, they can just go get it. For crayons, I have crayon boxes. I have 10 of them. And what I do in each of the crayon boxes, I've put 3 boxes of crayons. And the kids they know that they have to share the crayons. And we also have a big bucket of like just old scrap crayons. And so if the kids can't find a color, or if there aren't enough colors in the box, they can just go get the crayons. But for me, I think community supplies has made a big difference in my kids' ability to share and their willingness to share, because they have to do it all day, every day. And so it just becomes a natural part of what they're doing. And I've also found that with community supplies, we take better care of our things. Because my kids, we talk a lot about, it's not my classroom, it's our classroom, and everything in that classroom belongs to all of us. And so there's a lot of extra pressure to take care of everything and to treat everything with respect. And it's a lot of procedures at the beginning of the year, and a lot of training them to get the supplies and how to use them and sharing. But I'm a huge fan of community supplies. So nobody in my classroom has their own supply box. We share everything.
And I don't have community supplies. I mean, every student of mine has a seat sack, which is like a chair pocket that goes on the back of their chair. And that's where they store their pouch, which has their crayons in it, highlighters, scissors, glue stick, things like that. But so it's easily accessible for them. But yeah, I don't have community supplies in my room.
Chris?
I have community supplies for everything except for crayons. They don't have individual crayons, but I make sure that in a little like container from the dollar store, there's at least a full pack of crayons in there, and they just grab whichever one they're gonna grab, but they all have one full set of crayons. And then when one of them is looking dull or a lot of those are broken, I'll just put a new box in that, and they just grab that. So it's not assigned to anyone, but everyone will have a full box of crayons in like a dollar store Tupperware, just because with colors and things like that, I just don't want to hear it. So that just makes it easier for me.
Next questions are regarding morning meeting. How long does it last? Do you have any blogs or resources that you would recommend to help improve morning meeting?
In my classroom, morning meeting lasts anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, depending on what we're doing in morning meeting. And our district is a responsive classroom district, so we all have to do morning meeting, and we've all been trained. Responsive Classroom has a website, and they have several books out that are good for morning meeting. On my blog, I have tons of blog posts, and on YouTube, I have tons of videos of our morning meetings to kind of show you what it looks like, the format, all the different greetings and activities that we do. I'm a huge fan of morning meeting. I think every classroom should do it. It's a great way to start the day, builds community, gives the kids a chance to talk about what's going on, and it prepares them for the day ahead.
And how long did you say it lasts?
It lasts about 15 to 20 minutes. Kind of depending on Monday, everybody gets to share about their weekend. So Mondays, they tend to go a little bit longer because everybody's sharing something. But 15 minutes, 20 at the most.
My morning meeting looks a little bit different. We do a song. We always start out with a song. Usually Dr. Jean or Jack Hartman. Those are my two favorites. And then we usually go into morning message, and then it lasts about 10 minutes or so, including the popcorn words where they point to them, and then they head back to their seat. But my students do get to share later in the day when we do show and tell. That's after they come back from their special. So they do have time to talk and share with one another that way.
Chris, do you do morning meeting?
Very, very little. Due to our schedule, our intervention starts right away. So there's only about 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm always looking at ways that I can improve it. But I just saw something really cool that I'll share with y'all that I'm going to try in January. I haven't tried it yet. And I'm sorry, whoever periscoped about this, that I don't remember where I saw it. But you ask all your kids what their temperature is, and they hold up on their fingers between a 1 and a 10, 10 being they're awesome, they're ready to go, 1 being maybe they had not such a good morning. And then you pull aside anyone with a 5 or higher, 5 or lower, and ask them what's going on, and kind of have that really quick in transition or whatever, ask them what's going on and get them back onto that 10. So I saw that. I'm going to try it because our schedule doesn't let a lot of morning meeting time, but I figured that would be a good way to check in with everyone and see what's happening.
Well, I mean, we talked earlier about, getting to know the kids and finding out what's going on with them. And that's a great way to prevent some behavior issues during the day. Right. Somebody's not having a good morning, you can talk to them, make them feel better, and hopefully prevent some of that behavior. That's awesome.
Amanda wants to talk about writing, and her question is about teaching writing in kinder. She really wants to improve her writing for this next semester, and she wants to know if you guys have any ideas on how to improve writing in kindergarten.
We use a writer's workshop model in our classroom, and I use Writing Through the Year from Deanna Jump and Dee Dee Wills. For me, I found that that's been a phenomenal resource. It's made me a better teacher of writing, and it's made my kids much, much, much better writers. It's really, it's all about modeling, a lot of very explicit modeling, and with a ridiculously funny amount of thinking out loud. The kids giggle and laugh every time I model writing, because I'm really, whatever pops into my brain, it comes out of my mouth. But it's all about modeling and showing them that whatever you're thinking about, that's what you're writing about. So that's really made a tremendous difference in my classroom using those writing units.
We use handwriting without tears. That's something that our district requires us to do. And then also I do a question of the day sometimes where it's a pocket chart and we'll have a different question. And then each kid gets to go up and they'll curl their name onto their answer. And then from there, we use that to help with our writing. So that way we have words that they already know because they're up there on the pocket chart, and then they use that to help them. And then we discuss words that maybe we would want to use in our writing to help us when we write. And then I write those on my document camera, and then they can use those to help them. I do a lot of independent writing too. So that way I can challenge my higher students by allowing them to write to their ability. And then I can focus on my students who are struggling maybe a little bit with writing. And I use highlighters for that. So if you have a student that really can't write at all, asking them, so what do you want your sentence to be? And then even writing it with a highlighter and having them trace it. That's the first step. I lost my train of thought about what else I was going to say, but
All right, Chris, what about you in first grade?
We don't have a set writing thing we follow. We do a lot of Deanna and Dee Dee's units as well. But one thing I try to do with my kids is start something from Monday through Friday and work at it until it's finished on Friday, and then we'll start something new on Monday. And the modeling that Greg said on the anchor chart is the biggest thing that gets them to do it. And even if they start copying you, like mocking what you're saying, that's good because they're getting it, and eventually they'll do it on their own. So a lot of people say, no, don't just copy off mine, but they're trying. So just maybe if they're substituting a few words here and there, especially in kindergarten, I'd say that's a success.
Right, as long as they're writing. And even if it's the kids who write just the random string of letters, but they can tell you what it says, I'm all for that.
And I remember what I was going to say now. And another thing I do is I focus on one thing each day. So whether it's starting with a capital letter, end marks, spacing, I focus on one thing every single day. And I tell them that that's what I'm looking for today. So when I come around, I make sure that they're really focusing on that. And then we also do another thing where give me a thumbs up if you have, you start your sentence with a capital letter, pointer finger if you have spacing between your sentence, and then pinky if you have an end mark. And then we say, I love my sentence.
And do you always say it with a Southern accent?
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
You're pretty good with that Southern accent.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
I picked it up a little bit, you know.
All right, moving on. We've got some questions now about reading. So Jacqueline wants to know how long your guided reading groups are and how many times a week do you meet with each group? Also a question from, and this one, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm just gonna move on. What does your guided reading look like? Do you do daily 5 or balanced literacy, or do you do a combo?
So I'll start with, we do balanced literacy. Again, it's a district mandate. So I'll be doing guided reading, and then the kids are working in their centers, or as we call them in our classroom, hippopotamuses. My guided reading groups last about 10 minutes. It may go to 12 minutes as the year goes on, but I like to keep it short, keep it at about 10 minutes. So what mine looks like is that we, mostly the kids are reading. It's guided reading, so I want them reading. We'll read the title. We'll do a quick picture walk. We might look at any tricky words in the book, and then they're reading quietly with their whisper reading, and I'm going around and working with them, listening to them read, kind of working with them on some decoding strategies. Then at the end, we'll do a little bit of word work, usually sight words, and we try to do a little bit of writing, and I use a lot of sentence frames at the end of my guided reading.
And I don't necessarily have guided reading. We more have like reading intervention groups, and those are a half hour every single day, Monday through Friday. And the students are assessed, and then based on how they do on their assessments, they're put into groups, whether focusing on, intensive things, strategic, or challenging. We use different programs like PALS, Read Well, things like that. And in my group, I focus on sounds and letters first. It's a research-based curriculum, and then we focus on PALS, and then we go into reading a Fontes Pinnell book, and we do like the picture walk, and then I do, you do, we do type of thing.
Chris, what about you?
And just to throw this out real quick, the three of us actually did a post on guided reading on our Guides at Primary blog. So we kind of went into detail what we do there. But what I do is I have 6 different groups, and they'll go to different centers, but I'll have 2 groups at once at my guided reading table, and they'll meet for 15 minutes. So just 3 15-minute groups with me, but everyone else will rotate just in their other groups. So there's 6 groups, but I meet at 2 at once, and those are just based on their levels and when I do that. And then each group is a certain color. And when they come to the guided reading table, I have their 6 different pocket folders, each different color, and they just grab their pocket folder, and the book and everything we need is already right in there. So they just know what color they're doing, they open it up, and it saves a lot of time that way. So if you're organizing by groups and just have a colored group and have them grab that folder, it makes things a lot easier instead of scrambling to get things organized.
And I see every group every day. So I'm a big believer that we should try to read with every kid every day if possible. And I know for some classes that's impossible because they're so big, but I do see every group every day. And make sure you can check out the Guides of Primary, and because we all did blog posts about our guided reading. So there's lots of good information on there.
All right, I've got a bunch of questions that came in a little earlier about, and this is probably more specific for Greg, because I think that Chad and Chris, I think you guys both still have desks and tables in your chairs, in your classrooms, correct? Well, these questions are all about no tables, no desks. It comes up every single submission. So we always have to talk about it. It gets conversation on Facebook and Periscope and Twitter. Every time we're on there, you always get tons of questions about it. So just summarize really quickly how you do it, what type of research supports it, and any issues that you've run into with the students transitioning from kindergarten into first grade, with them now having tables or desks in first grade.
So I know Chris does alternative seating. So I'll let him talk a little bit about what it looks like in his room. But I went no tables, no desks last year. I did some research and found that it's good for engagement, it's good for building collaboration, and it's good for creativity. And so I was in a very small, oddly shaped classroom. So I needed to get rid of furniture to make room for the kids, because they're kind of important in a classroom. Got to have some kids. But I found that their engagement is better. They're more focused. Behaviors are down. They love the choice. I think having no tables, no desks, and having alternative seating, it empowers the kids because they have that freedom of choice and they have some control over where they are and where they're working and how they're working. And so that gives them a lot more buy-in into what you're doing, and it cuts down on a lot of behaviors. Again, there's a lot of research that supports alternative seating. It's great for the brain. It's very brain friendly. As far as transition to first grade, I haven't heard any complaints this year from the first grade teachers. And my argument to that is that the kids are still sitting in chairs and desks and at tables and other parts of their day, whether it's in the cafeteria or in art or music or guidance. They're still getting exposed to sitting in chairs. So I've not heard any complaints from first grade. I'm a big proponent of no tables, no desks, and alternative seating. I think more people should do it because it's what's best for our kids. It's research supported. It's great for their brains. And really, who wants to sit in a chair for 7 hours a day? I mean, we don't. So I think we should give our kids that opportunity. The key, and I think Chris could probably vouch for this, is that it's all about procedures and expectations and setting those up and building those and getting those into place so that things run smoothly. But I'll let Chris talk because I know he's doing alternative seating. So I'll let him kind of talk about what he's doing.
Yeah, what Greg just said, that if we can't sit in a chair for that long, how can they? I'm in staff meetings and I'm like laying on the floor. I'm like, I can't even do it for like 45 minutes because it's not natural. So if we expect our kids to sit in our desks the whole day, that's just impossible for them to do. So what I did is I have some alternative seating. So I actually did a donors choose and got it funded. So I have couches for my whole group now. So they can either sit on the floor on 3 couches or at the 3 tables with either wobble stools or stability balls or different things that I got. And that has made my whole group time amazing. And there's no issues at all. Everyone is focused. They just choose where they want to sit each day. And I haven't had any issues. In the beginning, they got to try out all the different areas and kind of see what works best for them. Some of them couldn't even balance on the stability ball. So they were like, yeah, this is not for me. I can't do it. So just letting your students choose, and they'll figure out what works for them and where they work best. And you see the same kids choosing that every single day. They're going to go to that same spot because they know they can work there the best. And just like Greg said, those procedures are key. But it's the best decision I made is just letting my students choose where they're going to sit, because why does it matter where they're sitting as long as they're working and on task? Who cares if they have assigned desks or whatever?
I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't care if they're laying down, standing up, standing on their heads. As long as they're working and on task, it doesn't matter to me because it doesn't affect me as long as they're doing what they need to do.
Well, I found something interesting earlier today on Facebook. There were some comments on the post regarding no tables, no desk. And a lady said that she had done away with hers in September. But she had a couple students that still wanted their desks, so she let them keep their desks. And then at break, she asked them again, hey, is there anything that you guys would like to change in the classroom? And she said the majority of her kids wanted their desks back. So she brought the desks back in. So, I mean, I think it's just what works for you and what works for your kids, right? If they want to sit in the floor, sit in the floor. If they want to sit at a desk, sit at a desk. They want to sit at a table, sit at a table.
And Chris talked about he has all different choices where the kids can sit. We do have a table in our classroom, so they're free to sit at the table. They sit at my table. They sit on the stage. So giving them choices and letting them choose what they want. It's all about getting them to buy into it and letting them feel like they have ownership in the classroom.
All right, moving on. Next few questions are about centers. This first question is from Anne. She wants to know how you start your centers for the first time ever with a new class.
I start off with things that the kids can do independently without any instruction. Puzzles, blocks, Legos, so that we're only focused on the procedure. So they can get the stuff and they can sit down and use it without me doing anything. So we're only solely focused on the procedures and the routines of checking our wheel, going to the right tub, picking a tub, and finding a spot to work and staying there until you're done. So at the beginning of the year, there's nothing academic. I might have some letter stencils in there, but it's something, again, the kids can grab and know exactly what to do. So we're only focused on the procedure and the routines. And then when we start to bring in some of the academic stuff, it's either introduced whole group, so it's a whole group activity, or in a small group, and then it goes into the centers so that the kids have been exposed to it so they can do it independently without a lot of help from me.
And that's the same with me too. Just start basic, whether it's a ABC matching game or something like that, something like you said that they can do independently. And then my students go up to the carpet every single time we transition. I have a PowerPoint so they know what color center to go to. And then we just, obviously setting your rules and expectations of how they walk to their center. If they, run, then say, all right, let's try it again. Have them all go back up. And if you have to do it 7 times, that's all right. They're just learning to do it. And I also review the centers beforehand. Whole group usually takes about 5 minutes or so to do my whole entire rotation. I have 8 different centers, and I just go over them very briefly. But I'm very fortunate. I do have a lot of parents that come in, and I have about 2 parents every single day that come in and help out for centers. So that does help.
What about you, Chris?
I always, in the beginning of the year especially, always have someone do a non-example, and I usually choose the person that's going to do it that way, probably, if you ask them to do it, because you just know who's going to run or who's going to act crazy with materials.
You already know.
You know the first second they walk in, so I always choose that person to do it and just let them completely be silly and goofy and say, okay, now we know how not to do it. Now that same person has to show us the example of how to do it. And once they all get it out in the beginning, usually I don't have any problems just setting those procedures and making everyone in the beginning do the same center at a time. So there's no fighting to get to where they are. Everyone's doing the same thing until we can do it right. And then we'll move on to the next one. I usually don't start giving them choice of centers until maybe a month into school, just because of the procedures. But yeah, just making sure you have that example and that non-example helps a lot.
Before we go on to the next question, if you haven't gone over to the blog, the kindergartensmorgasbord.com, make sure you can do that so that you can enter to win one of our prizes. We're giving away 1 year of ESGI. That's a $200 value. If you're not familiar with ESGI, it's an online one-on-one assessment tool that will make your life a million times easier. And if you're not already using it, every teacher needs to be using it. We all 3 use it in our classrooms, and we're big fans of ESGI. And we're also giving away a Letters Alive kit from Alive Studios. This is augmented reality for your classroom. It's actually 3D without the glasses. And with Letters Alive, you can do letters, sounds, sight words, sentences, and word families. It's a phenomenal piece of technology. My kids eat it up. Tremendous product. Everybody needs it in their classroom. And so somebody's going to win that tonight, and that's an $800 value. So make sure you head over to the blog, thekindergartensmorgasbord.com, to get entered. You have about 20 or 25 minutes before the giveaway closes. And you do have to be present in the chat at the end to win. So make sure you're here for the entire broadcast. So if we call your name, you can win the prize.
Really quick question. What are boogie boards and where do you find them?
Those things you ride at the ocean. You won't believe how many times, and I bet Chris has had this, like I talk about a boogie board and somebody will say, like, the thing you ride in the ocean? They're iPad sized LED LCD screens. You can write on them with the pen or your finger, and then you push a button and they erase. It's like a high-tech Etch-a-Sketch. I know Chad uses them. I know Chris uses them. You can get them. Chris got his class set on Donors Choose. You can get them at Michael's, on Amazon, Joanne. But they're they're fabulous. My kids eat them up.
They have a new one right now. It's called the Play and Trace, and it's like a art palette type thing, and it has a blue clear screen, and so you can actually place it on top of any type of letters for tracing or numbers, and the students can actually trace right onto the blue screen and see whatever is beneath it. So that's something definitely to check out. My students love it too.
Yeah. So someone mentioned they do adding and subtracting in October and measuring in May. Who was that? Was that you, Greg? Adding and subtracting in October and measuring in May.
We do adding and we do it all year.
Okay. Maybe it was someone in the chat. Just someone commented and said that they disliked that order. I was just curious why you would do it in that order. I thought I would try to address the question.
For me, our district puts out pacing guides. And so it tells us every 9 weeks what skills and standards we have to address. We have to teach that 9 weeks. And so the way they set ours up is basically we teach everything every 9 weeks. So it's a constant review. It's like a spiral review. So the first 9 weeks when we introduce subtraction, it's very basic. I have one more, and now I have two. Mm-hmm. And so measuring is kind of the same way, sorting things, biggest and smallest. And then we build on that through the course of the year. But we follow those pacing guides. But really, we're introducing things in the first 9 weeks, and then we build on it throughout the year.
Okay, going back to centers really quick. How often do you change them out?
For me, I change them out. What I do every couple of weeks, I'll take.
For someone who helps sometimes, too often.
We can do it more.
Oh, God.
We can do it every Friday.
No thanks.
So I do every couple of weeks, I'll take out a few things and put a few new things in. So it's constantly fresh, but I'm not taking everything out and putting out everything new because number one, that's too much work and I don't want the kids to be overwhelmed. Also, what I do is I'll take stuff from my pink tub, which is my higher group, and I'll move that stuff to the purple group. And then I'll move some stuff from purple down to blue and the blue down to green. So I'm kind of just shifting things. And the great thing about that is that the kids in the other groups have done those centers so that the kids need help, they can ask each other. And then everyone gets to see the same stuff, so nobody feels left out. Of course, if it's a holiday themed, or a seasonal, I'll change that out as when the holiday is over. And then usually like once a month, I'll get frisky and take everything out and put everything back in new. But every couple of weeks, I try to bring in some new stuff.
And I have centers, rotation of centers Monday, Tuesday, and then another rotation Wednesday, Thursday. So I switch it out twice in a week.
What about you, Chris?
I try to switch as least as possible. I just hate switching things out, and I always forget in that. So for my reading centers, I do more daily 5 centers, so those kind of just run themselves. And then the only thing I change out is, like I said, what's in the word work box, and that takes 2 seconds because I just go to the big tub of word work stuff and just choose something to put in it, and they know how to do it already. So I try to not change them out just because it's more work for me, and I don't like that. So
a question about not changing them out, Chris. Someone actually mentioned this. So they want to know, if you don't change them out very often, do they just do the same centers over and over, or what do you do?
It'll just change. For reading, they'll do the same. They'll get to choose where they do. So just like daily 5 follows, so they'll just choose their daily 5 center. For math, I use a lot of technology in my centers, so I won't always do centers for math. It's not a daily thing for me in first grade. Might do it maybe 2-3 times a week. And I'll have them do something on the computer that's based on the standard that we're working on. So anything like splash math, or if they have, we're working towards blended learning, so half of it's on the computer in centers. So I'll pull things from either Go Math. I saw people have Go Math. So pulling those interactive things from Go Math and having them do them on a tablet or iPad or on the computer, and that would be their center. So things that it's the same thing, but it's just with different content are the easiest thing for me to do.
Awesome. All right, moving on to the next topic is about smartboards. What are your top things to do on your smartboard? And where do you find the materials that you use?
So my classroom has an actual smart board. And so I use, it's Smart Exchange, and you can go on and you sign up, it's free. And then you can download smartboard activities for every possible skill or activity that you want your kids to do. So I do that. I also use it a lot just for classroom management type stuff. So in the morning when the kids come in, that's how we take attendance. So I have their pictures on there and they have to slide their picture to show me that they're at school. I use it a lot for our music. So I have iTunes pulled up. And so whenever I want to start music, I can just touch the smartboard. We also use it for our calendar. So during math, our entire calendar routine is done on the smartboard. So whoever's the calendar helper that day is actually manipulating the calendar on the smartboard.
I don't have a smartboard. So I have a document camera.
Well, Chad needs a smartboard.
I do.
How do you use yours, Chris?
Mine's a interactive whiteboard, so it's a smartboard, but just on my whiteboard. And it's just on all day. I use it for everything I do. So if I didn't have it, I'm not sure how. I don't know if I'd be as effective as a teacher if I didn't have it. I don't know if I could go back to that. I'm so used to it. It's for everything. So I'm just flipping back and forth to different games. If there's any interactive online games, I love to do that on my smartboard and have the kids come up and do it, because that's super easy to just, you don't have to make anything. I also use ClassFlow in my classroom, if you've heard of that. So it's interactive. It can send things out to the kids on tablets or anything like that. And that's with the smartboard. And I just use the pen a lot as it is. Instead of the whiteboard marker that I have to clean my whiteboard all the time, I just use my pen, and I can be as sloppy as I want and then just clear it. So yeah, keep scrubbing your whiteboard, Chad.
Yes.
I will.
Do you guys use Common Core standards?
Yes. Yeah. Chris, are you guys Common Core?
No, we're Florida standards based on Common Core, so it's Common Core. It's almost equivalent.
Well, as of last week, we were probably not Common Core, but if we go back on Monday, we probably will be. It changes. But as of right now, we are a Common Core state. Yeah.
So Sabrina says that she's heard numerous things about what kindergartners are expected to do for homework. What are your opinions about homework in kindergarten, and what types of things do you do for homework?
I'm on the fence with homework. I see some value to it. I think it helps build responsibility. And I think that kids need to start getting used to that idea of homework, because as they get older, homework becomes pretty important. But I also don't want homework to be something that's bad and negative and frustrating for the kids and the parents. And I don't want it to be something that takes them an hour. So what we do is every 2 weeks, we send home a homework paper, and it has every day, so Monday through Friday, and they have to do a couple of little things. Like right before school ended, they had to write their numbers to 20, they had to write their name, and they had to read their sight words, and that's it. And that was their homework for the night. And it's all done in a composition notebook, and it just goes back and forth every day. What I like about that is that it's very easy for them, it's very easy for the parents, and it's very, very easy for me to keep going with it. And one of the teachers on my team actually does the homework sheet, so I don't even have to do it. So I think there's value in homework. I just think we have to be very careful that it's not busy work, and it's not too much, because at the end of the day, they're 5, and we don't want them sitting at a table all night doing homework. And I think what I always tell my parents, if you can't do anything else, read a book with the kids, and have them read to you. And I would rather them be reading a book every night than worrying about homework. So I'm kind of on the fence right now about homework.
And I do send home homework. I do a reading worksheet and then a math worksheet, but it's for the whole entire week. So they turn it in on Friday. And I agree. I don't think homework should be difficult. It should definitely be something that's fun. But one way that I really like to use homework is because it shows the parent what we're focusing on in school. So I always will, grab some type of homework worksheet or something like that that's focusing on a skill that we're learning in the classroom. And it shouldn't be difficult. If it is difficult, of course, the parents are there to help the child. But I just think that it should be reinforcing what you're focusing on in the classroom. And then also, of course, they're expected to learn their sight words. And then we have decodable books that they're reading that align with those sight words also.
Chris, what are you doing first grade?
I'm pretty strict on homework when I do give it. One thing I do every day is they have to read for 15 minutes at least and respond to it. So I'm pretty strict on that, and I make sure they do that. And I tell the parents that in the beginning of the year, that I don't care if you have soccer practice, football practice, if you can't do anything else, you need to read, and you need to do that part of it, because that's the most important part to me. And I've just seen kids who read at home versus kids who don't. And I mean, their studies show how significant it is. So I really make them read and respond to the story, just either a picture or what sentences or what they liked about it, or different questions they can answer. And then math, I usually have them respond to something we did in class that day. instead of just sending something home. So either it's their favorite part of the lesson or something like that, more like an exit ticket as homework. So I like trying to do that. So it's not do page this, do page that, because then I also have to check it in the morning, and that takes more time out of my morning. So the least things I have to check, the better.
So how do you make everything work each week? This teacher says that she's killing herself trying to fit it all in. Do you ever eliminate something to fit it all in?
Oh, all the time. And I think we could probably all say the same thing. I think it's all about being flexible. And I intentionally every week overplan. So there's always way more planned than we ever get to, because you never know what the response to a lesson or an activity is going to be. It might be something that they get and you're ready to move on, or you might plan for them to get it, but it's a struggle. But I also think we have to be flexible, and we have to be willing to let things go, because we want to focus on those teachable moments. Because somebody could just ask a simple question during a read aloud, and it brings about a whole lesson. What I found a lot, like especially we did holidays around the world, we spent a lot of time like searching the internet and YouTubing stuff, because the kids were asking so many questions about each country. So I think we have to be willing to let stuff go and just throw things out to focus on those teachable moments, and really listen to our kids and let them kind of guide us as to what they want to learn, what they're asking the questions about, so we can kind of focus on what they want to know and what they want to learn. But I throw stuff out all the time, and I'll have stuff planned and prepped, and it just sits there. And I think that's okay. That's what should be happening, because that tells me that we're meeting the needs of the kids. And there's always something to do and always something that doesn't get done. And I'm not a big believer in paperwork. And so that's caused some tension this year at my school, because they're always asking me for paperwork and I don't have it done because, I've been busy teaching my kids. So I think we have to prioritize and just be totally flexible and be willing to throw things out, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think it's important to realize, yes, there's other ways to do things and there's other ways to teach things, but also it's important that you do stick to that routine. So yes, it's okay to be flexible and kind of veer off a little bit, but still making sure that you're staying on, what if it's reading, staying on reading, if it's math, staying on math, not getting, during reading, all of a sudden starting a math lesson in the middle of it, sticking to that routine, because that's what they want. They need a routine. That's what they look forward to.
Chris, what about you?
I'm not one of those teachers that checks things off my lesson plan. I know there's some people even on my team that do that, and I just cannot do that. I'm not like that. So when I do my lesson plan, I just know what I have to do that week, and I know I have that week, all the reading times combined to get it done, and I just do it at my own pace and whatever I want to do. And like Greg said, if something comes up and I'm like, I want to spend more time on this, I just do it. And even though maybe your principal or someone says, you need to stick to your curriculum or your framework, if that comes up, you need to do that and just teach them about that really quick, and then get back to what you're supposed to do, and just make sure by the end of the week you accomplish what you wanted to get done in that week. If you're dragging it out week after week, then you're going to get behind on standards and all that, and you don't want that. So just if you finish it in that week, then who cares if you did it on Monday or Thursday or whenever you got it done, as long as you got it done.
Absolutely.
Do all the teachers on your team, on your grade level, do they all do the same theme, or do you kind of mix it up?
The same theme?
Mm-hmm.
On my team, we plan together, and we've planned out our whole year in 2-week themes. So for 2 weeks, we're all on the same theme, but what we're doing with the theme and how we're teaching it and how we're integrating it might look different.
So could you be doing different units?
So when we go back, we're all going to be doing New Year's for a week. So we'll be doing New Year's resolutions, or by we kind of focused on goals and resolutions and that kind of thing. Then when we move into penguins and Arctic animals, we'll all be doing Arctic animals and penguins, but we may not be doing the same animal on the same day. We might do different art projects. We might be teaching it differently, but we're all still on that same theme for 2 weeks.
And with my colleagues, yeah, we have like a set curriculum, and so we follow it, to the T, and basically we're at the same pacing in the same unit at the same time. So it kind of helps that we can work with one another and kind of come up with ideas.
Chris, what about you?
Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. I'm like just staring at you guys. We don't have themes in first grade so much. So in that aspect, we don't. But standards wise, in the lessons we're doing, we're pretty much all on the same page and we work really well together on that. And it just makes it easier if you're doing the same thing as your team because you don't have to do as much work on the planning side, and we all know how long that takes out of you. So we're pretty much all doing the same standards and the same lessons. We're just going about it, teaching it in our own ways.
All right, we've only got about 10 minutes left for people to enter for the drawing. If you've not entered, please go and enter now. Go to the kindergartensmorgasbord.com. You click on the first blog post. It'll take you to the link. You'll click on enter, or you'll click on the Rafflecopter giveaway. You'll enter your email address, or you can enter via Facebook. You need to do this right away before that closes, because once it closes at 8:15, we cannot accept any more entries. Keep in mind, you have to be here in order to win. You have to be in the live chat.
Yeah, not here with us in the house.
No, not in. You have to be on the live chat, and you have to let us know that you're here. That's how we're going to know that you're actually still in the live chat. So head over now if you have not done that.
And just as a reminder, we're giving away 1 year of ESGI, which is a $200 value, and we're giving away a Letters Alive kit for your classroom, and that's augmented reality, which is 3D without the glasses, and that's an $800 value. So big shout out to ESGI and Alive Studios for sponsoring tonight and letting us give away these awesome prizes.
All right, back to some questions. Let's keep this rocking. We have a couple people that have asked about work and play in the classroom and how it's balanced out. Miss B wanted to know how much she had to pay me in order to get her question asked.
A lot.
I told her, I said, it's on my list, we'll get there. But I've had 2 other people ask very similar questions. So thought I would go ahead and get it in there to make sure we don't miss it. So what do you all think of the slow elimination of free choice / playtime in the classroom? Brandy says that all of the toys in her classroom have been supplied, but they really don't have it on their daily schedule.
I think, especially in kindergarten, and then Chris can talk about what he thinks about first grade, but I think in kindergarten, our kids need kind of some downtime. And I know with the standards and all of the expectations, that's really, really hard. And so one way that I try to balance it is by giving the kids a lot of choice in what they're doing, so that they can at least have control over what they're working on. Also to try to provide them as many different manipulatives to use and as many different materials as possible. And I try to make everything we do as fun as possible. So I try to keep them up and moving, whether it's with Go Noodle or whether, sometimes we just turn on the music and have dance parties just to have some fun. Luckily, our district, our school board this year instituted a new policy, and they added 10 minutes to our recess time. And so our district is kind of moving towards more play, more activity for our kids. But I definitely think it's something the kids need. They need that playtime and that downtime, but it's also, we know we have all of these expectations to meet. So it is about finding a balance. And again, so it's why I try to make things as fun as possible and give the kids the choice, give them a lot of choices so that they can kind of have control over their learning, and providing them with as many different materials and supplies and manipulatives, just so that they can make it fun for themselves. So I think you can still have fun and play, but still be learning.
In my district, we do actually have 15 minutes of free choice time where the students get to play with toys. And I'll tell you, it's what they look forward to every single day. The last 15 minutes of the day, they get to sign up for something, and then I get it out, and then they get to play with it. But I also want to add too, like during centers, that's a time too where they think that they're playing. Like you can create centers that are actually fun and are almost like free choice time because they're playing with games, educational games and things like that from teachers to teachers, Lakeshore Learning, things like that. So yes, if you don't have free choice time, you can still, or your hippopotamuses, whatever you want to talk about, you can still make your centers really fun and engaging where your students, they don't even think they're really learning anything. They just think they're having fun and playing games. So that's an alternative if you don't have a free choice time.
Chris, what do you think?
We don't so much have play time in first grade. I do think it's important in kindergarten, especially with those social skills, because they need to be talking to each other and just communicating and working together. Because once they come to first grade, you can tell the kids who have not had a play date ever and the kids who know how to interact with their children. So I think that is so critical in kindergarten. In first grade, the whole day we're basically playing, we're moving around, they're going to different things. So They don't necessarily play with toys or something like that. We don't have any of that in our classroom, but like Chad said, through centers or just even whole group games or academic games or activities or songs, chants, everything, it's playing the whole day. So that's what I would do.
And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of controversy about Common Core and too many expectations, and it's not developmentally appropriate. But at the end of the day, we're experts and we're the CEOs of our classroom. And so we can take anything and make it fun. And we can make it a game. And so we can kind of lighten that burden on our kids by making everything fun. And like Chris said, we can make it into a game and we get them up and moving. So I think it's up to us to take away some of that burden on the kids by making things more fun and having as much fun as possible every day.
Greg, Julia wants to know how you explain hippos to your kids. She said if she said that, her kids would be so confused.
Okay, so I get asked this a lot. So let me just tell the story again. So last year we had a meeting with the person in charge of literacy for our district. We're a huge district. We have 70 or 85,000 kids in our district. So we're massive. So we have, people in charge of boxes and people in charge of staples because we just have that many people who work in our central office. So this, the lady in charge of literacy came and told us that there had been meetings, plural, and they had decided in these meetings, plural, because apparently they have a lot of free time to have meetings.
I love it's meetings, plural.
They decided that we could no longer call them centers. We had to call them workstations because kids in older grades thought that centers meant play and that centers were babyish. And so it was now a district rule that we couldn't call them centers. And so sometimes I say things before I think about them. They just kind of pour out. And so I said to her, well, I'm just going to call them hippopotamuses. And then I'm going to write a book and I'll make millions. And so, she kind of snickered and I thought it was really funny. And so I actually went back to my classroom and told my kids, oh, this is what just happened. And the kids thought it was really funny. And so my kids last year just kind of started calling them hippopotamuses and it stuck. And so that's what we started calling them. And so this year, at the beginning of the year, second week of school, when we started centers, I told the kids, these are centers, but we call them hippopotamuses. And so that's just what we call them. And so that's why there's no confusion because that's what they are in our classroom. And if I call them centers, the kids will be like, you mean hippopotamuses? So that's why they're hippopotamuses.
What is a national board certified teacher?
National board certified teacher, you go through, I think it's a year-long process. Have either of you done it? Chris, have you done it? Okay, it's, from what I understand, it's a year-long process that involves, and I'm sure there's some people in the chat who have done it so they can kind of talk to it more, but really it's a year-long process that involves some written work. I think you do a lot of videos of yourself. All of that stuff is scored and evaluated, and then you take a test. And if you get enough points and if you pass the test, you get national board certification.
Have you thought about doing it?
I have thought about doing it.
The only reason, there's someone in the chat that's asked a couple of times, just wondered if you've considered it and why not? I
have considered it. I've heard that it's a lot of work, but I've also heard everyone who's done it talks about how much better they are in the classroom because they've done it. I know also there's a cost involved, but I know a lot of districts will reimburse that cost. I think my district reimburses part of it. But it's something I've thought about. And I know a lot of people do it with friends. Apparently it's easier if you have a support group that goes through the process with you. So yeah, let's do it. Chris, you want to do it next year? All right, we're all in.
So Bonnie says that she has a hard time with sight words. Do you have any ideas for adding them throughout the day?
What I do is I do sight word 60. So we do a few minutes every day. And what happens over the course of the week is that my kids are exposed to the sight words at least 60 times. And brain research tells us that you need about 21 times to put something into long-term memory. But then, of course, they're in centers. They're part of our morning message. What I've started doing recently, because my kids say my name 37 billion times a day, and there are days when it makes me want to pull my ears off, is I've started putting a sight word on my name tag, on my lanyard, and I'll wear it. So instead of being Mr. Greg, I'll be Mr. Find or Mr. Can. So anytime they want to come talk to me, they have to read that sight word before they can talk to me. So that's one way that I've incorporated it throughout the whole day. I don't know, Chris, what do you do? Chad?
As we're going to specials or lunch, I just have sight words on a ring, and I kind of make them say it as an exit out the door at the end of the day. When we're going to lunch, specials, just really quick, and that helps them with their sight words. And then ESGI, just testing them over and over, super quick with ESGI, makes them know it, and you can see the growth just in a week's time. And with those flashcards printed out, they have to work on the ones that they got wrong. So it really helps them with those sight words, especially. If you don't use ESGI for anything else, you need to use it for sight words because it's so easy and it just has the flashcards ready to go. So they'll learn their sight words so fast if you're using that program.
One thing that I do is each of my students have a highlighter, and so we do like poems and things like that. When we read them together as a class, I actually have my students go through and I have them, if we're focusing on a sound or something that day or a digraph or anything like that, I have them highlight that, but then I also have them go through and circle those sight words that they see in there and have them say them also as they circle them. So that's another way. You'd be surprised at how much a highlighter can make a difference in their work. They just get so excited.
And I think it's cool because I don't know if you guys notice this, but my kids will they'll get really excited when they see a sight word in a book or on a sign or just randomly. And they're like, look, it's a sight word. It's a sight word. Also, Harry Kindergarten has some great sight word songs on YouTube. And Heidi Songs has some great sight word songs and DVDs to check out. Anytime you can use music, it's just 10 times better for the kids.
Portia says, Greg, don't forget the morning greeting using the sight words. She said her kinders absolutely love that greeting.
Oh, yeah. So what I do, every time we do morning meeting, we have a greeting. And so what I'll do is I'll write sight words on mailing labels, and I stick it on the kids on their shirt. And so when they greet each other, instead of greeting by name, they greet by the sight word. So first off in morning meeting, they're reading the sight words. And I use what I do, like Chris said, using ESGI with the sight words, is I'll pull up the data on ESGI and see which sight words we're having the most trouble with. And those are the ones that I'll use for our morning meeting greeting.
Your sight word 60 comment got a lot of people talking in the chat. Is there don't you have a video?
Yes, I have a blog post and a video about sight word 60 and how it works. And because each day there's something different that you do, but it only takes a few minutes a day. And by the end of the week, they've had more than 60 exposures to the words, reading them, writing them, saying them, spelling them. And at the end of the week, we review them with a game. But yeah, there's a video and a blog post, and we'll put those on Facebook.
Are any of the three of you presenting at any conferences this coming year?
Chad, you're not. Chris, are you?
I'm going to Texas in February. I don't remember the name of the conference though. So the tech conference in Texas, I know that, and that's it as of right now.
Where at in Texas?
Say that again.
Where in Texas?
So that they can find you.
I'll tweet it out.
Okay. He's gonna figure it out.
So somewhere in Texas at some point.
But Texas isn't big at all, so surely you can find him. No problem.
Maybe Dallas, maybe Houston, maybe I don't know. Oh wait, maybe that's it.
Lubbock?
TCEA, yes, I think that's it. Yeah, TCEA.
Okay. Let's see. I'll be in Texas in January, working in Divine, Texas, with their schools. In March, I'll be in Chicago at the Illinois ASCD conference. Georgia in March, also working with some schools in Georgia. In October, I'm doing the Wisconsin Kindergarten Conference.
And at the end of October.
At the end of October, I'm really excited to be flying to Fargo, North Dakota. In October. Should be fun for the North Dakota Kindergarten Conference. So that's what I have for next year as of right now.
So everyone that's listening and watching, if you want more information about where Chris or Greg are going to be presenting, just be sure to follow their blog. I'm sure you will get all the details there on where they're going to be.
And then maybe we'll get Chad to do one.
Yeah, I think Chad needs to do one. Okay. It is 20 minutes after 8 our time, 20 minutes after 9 Eastern. It's time to do our giveaways. Do we want to do ESGI first, or do we want to do Letters Alive first?
Let's do ESGI first.
Okay.
And before we give away ESGI, I want to say, I have to say a huge shout out to ESGI. Not only do they have this phenomenal product that makes the lives of teachers easier, but the people at ESGI are phenomenal. And ESGI as a company truly cares about teachers, and they want to support teachers, and they just are some of our biggest cheerleaders. So I can't say enough about ESGI. ESGI was created by a kindergarten teacher named Greg from Indiana, which I think is funny because I'm a kindergarten teacher named Greg from Indiana. But they truly are a phenomenal company. I love that we can call them friends. We have a great time when we see them. We love them to pieces. And I also have to say, they have been incredibly supportive of us at the Kindergarten Smorgasbord. They have been a sponsor of every Submissions for Smorgie Live from the beginning. So a huge shout out to ESGI. They're tremendous people. They are a blessing to the teaching community. Not only do they have a phenomenal product, but they love teachers. So definitely check them out, show them some love. And I think Rochelle's here tonight. So Rochelle, we love you. We love your product. We love ESGI. So thank you so much for all that you do for us and for teachers everywhere.
I think Kristen or Melinda joined as well because ESGI software actually came in.
Well,
later.
Hi, Kristen
So
or Melinda.
Whoever, whether it's Kristen or Melinda, hello.
Huge fans of ESGI. They really are a blessing to the teacher community.
Jean says that her admin thought it was you that created it, and she had a really hard time getting admin to believe that it was another Greg that had created it. That's hilarious. And for Letters Alive, like that's a very new relationship for us.
So Letters Alive. So let me tell you the story about how Letters Alive came to be in my classroom. So we were at the I Teach K conference in Vegas this past summer. And all week in our booth, we kept hearing this elephant, this really, really loud elephant. And by Thursday, we're exhausted, we're tired, we're grumpy. And I was finally like, I don't know what that elephant is, but I'm tired of hearing this elephant. And so on Friday morning, was it Friday morning or Thursday? I don't remember. I finally told Jason, I said, I'm going to go.
The day before the conference ended.
Okay. I was like, I'm going to go figure out what this elephant noise is. So I strolled over there and stumbled up on Letters Alive. And they're like, I'm like, is it you making all the elephant noises? And so they showed me what Letters Alive was. And the first time that Faith put the card under the document camera and that elephant came to life on the screen, I was hooked. Like literally, like when she did it, I was like, oh my God, I have to have this in my classroom. It's really is that phenomenal. Every adult who's been in my classroom loves it. The kids love it. The Letters Alive Studios, they're a fairly new company. I think they've been around for about a year and a half. They're the first company to really put augmented reality into the classrooms as a supplemental resource. I got to spend Monday, I'd actually drove to Atlanta and spent Monday at Alive Studios, talking to them, sharing ideas. And even though it's a fairly new relationship for us, I have the same feeling about them as I do ESGI. I think they're phenomenal people. And Alive Studios, they are on a mission to share great teachers and to be cheerleaders for great teachers. And they really do want to make teaching better, and they want to make an impact in classrooms everywhere. And so I think anytime that you have a company that has that genuine love of kids and of teaching, and they want to make teaching in classrooms better, I think we need to give them our support. So they were very generous, and they gave me Letters Alive to use in my classroom to test it out and to see what I think and what I thought. It totally gets my seal of approval. I can't imagine not using it. And when I was in Atlanta on Monday with Alive Studios, I actually got to play with Math Alive. So they have Letters Alive for literacy, and they have Math Alive, and they also have Storybooks Alive. The Math Alive, it's also amazing. Might be more of a favorite for me than Letters Alive. Because it has more of it's more interactive, so you can use it on your whiteboard and the kids can interact with it a little bit more. But another huge shout out to Letters Alive. They're a fairly new company, but anytime that I can sit down with a company and the people who work for a company and they want to know one of the first things they ask me is how can we support teachers and what can we do to make teaching and classrooms better? I think that says a lot about where their priorities are. So again, a huge shout out to Letters Alive, not only for supporting my classroom and for sponsoring tonight, giving away this Letters Alive kit, but for also being cheerleaders for teachers. We all know that we need more people on our side and more people rooting for us and more people sharing all of the great things that we're doing in our classrooms. So huge shout out to ESGI and Alive Studios. And I do want to point out, you can now, if you have ESGI or if you try it out, you can also, Letters Alive Studios has put assessments on ESGI. Mm-hmm. And so now those two companies are working together. So it's just a win-win for everybody. So yeah, definitely check out. You can also do, I know $800, it's pretty steep, but you can do a Donors Choose and get Letters Alive or Math Alive or the whole kit for your classroom. You can do it, if you do Donors Choose, you can find Letters Alive and Math Alive through Kaplan. So if you're interested in it and you want it, go do a Donors Choose. And again, Cynthia and LA are in the chat for a few more minutes. So if you have any quick questions or you want to reach out to them. So Cynthia, LA, we love you guys. Thank you so much.
Rochelle confirmed that Alive Studio assessments are in ESGI.
Yes, very good.
All right, let's do this drawing. People are getting impatient here. So we're doing ESGI first, and the winner is Bonita Bradway.
All right, so Bonita Bradway, you are the winner of ESGI. So if you're in the chat, go ahead and say something to Jason. Let him know that you're here. And we're going to kind of just talk for a minute because I know there's a delay. So we want to make sure that Bonita knows that she's the winner and has time to let Jason know.
Well, here's something you can talk about. We didn't get to it in the chat. You're all three male teachers, 2 in kindergarten, 1 in first grade. What do you find to be the hardest thing about being a male teacher?
I think for being a male kindergarten teacher in kindergarten, I think, and I don't know, Chris, this might be even true for first grade, but it's such a female-dominated occupation, and teaching is in general. So I feel like I have to work harder to prove that I'm a good kindergarten teacher because I'm a man. And I don't mean that in a bad way or a negative way. I think a lot of that comes from people don't see men as caregivers and as having that empathy that kids need. So I think we have to work a little bit harder to overcome that and to prove that we're good kindergarten teachers. I also find that the kids respond differently to me than they do the women in my building. And again, I think it's just because I'm a man, and I think kids respond differently to men.
I mean, I think I agree with exactly what you said, and I see the same exact thing for myself. But I think when my first year teaching, I think there was definitely some hesitation there. And I actually had some parents that came up to me and said, yeah, at first, when we found out that my daughter had a male kindergarten teacher, we were a little bit hesitant about it because we didn't really know how that would work out because it's not normal. I know we're a rare breed is what it is. But like Greg said, you have to prove yourself and you have to really show that this is where you want to be. And I mean, Greg will say the same thing. I can't see myself teaching any other grade, really.
No. Chris, what's it like in first grade as a guy?
I wouldn't say we have that problem with knowing that because the kids know us. The kids know me already from being in kindergarten or school, and the parents as well. So we don't have that kind of shock that they have a guy teacher because we've already known that that was an option. I just say girl drama. Oh my goodness! Like just there's just so much drama. That's being a guy teacher and on a team of all females. I love my team so much, but just girl drama and just personalities of it's a lot to handle. And I'm on a team of 8, so it's a lot of estrogen. So that's the hardest part for me, I think, is just being like, okay, and being team leader is even harder because I'm like, okay, we don't have time for that. Like, we got to keep moving. But do you have chocolate? I'm like, no, we need to keep.
So you always have to keep chocolate in your classroom.
I know, I need to, I guess.
All right, Bonita has still not answered. Bonita Bradway, it was your last call in the chat to win ESGI. Bonita, are you here? I've said it multiple times in the chat as well. So we're going to move on.
Okay.
So we're going to draw again for ESGI.
So this is 1 year of ESGI, $200 value.
And the winner is Maureen. Your email address is JERANDMOE1. Gerandmo1. Maureen.
All right.
Let me know if you're here.
Maureen, if you're in the chat, let Jason know, and we'll give you a minute. Let the delay catch up to itself. So Maureen, if you're here, let Jason know, and you won 1 year of ESGI. Forgot what I was going to say. Look, I pulled a chat and totally lost my train of thought.
So true.
Anything from Maureen?
I don't see anything.
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Chris is looking. Chris can see what's happening.
First of all, while we have a break, can we just like talk about how I don't know how Jason does this? Like I cannot even keep up with any of his comments. I have the chat open too, y'all, and I give Jason props. So congrats, Jason. After we find Maureen.
Yeah. And,
oh my gosh, it's so quick and so fast, and the delay is crazy.
so
Yes, there's Maureen. Maureen is here.
oh good.
Woo-hoo!
So yeah,
Maureen, we will send you an email confirming your win, and ESGI will be in touch with you on exactly what you need to do to claim your prize. Congratulations, Maureen.
Yay! Congratulations, Maureen. Yeah, let me also give a big shout out to the Mister, because every month he's sitting back there behind the computer, doing all the hard work, and he always does such a great job. He's got his notebook and his pen, and he does such a great job of keeping everything going and keeping me on track and filling in when I have to run to the bathroom in the middle of the live show. So totally couldn't do it without him. And it was funny when we did the first one, I was like, well, I might need your help. I don't know. Like, I think there's a chat and I think I can do it by myself. And luckily he was sitting there with the notebook and the chat open. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I need your help. Yeah. So none of what I do could be done without him. So I have to give him huge shout outs for being a great support and helping me and taking care of me and making sure I take care of myself.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I actually enjoy it. It's a lot of fun for me. I don't know a lot of the teachery talk, but I do the best I can. Sometimes there's an acronym that comes up and I have no idea what this means, but I just say it anyway and hope that Greg does. So,
all right, let's give away Letters Alive. So this is a big one. I'm super excited for whoever wins this. So if you win, please use it in your classroom and let us know what you think about it, and let Alive Studios know what you think about it. You're going to get a document camera, a set of letter cards, a set of sight word cards, a set of basically action cards, verbs, and color words. And then in the boxes included is the software. It's actually on a USB drive that needs to be plugged in and needs to stay plugged in when you're using Letters Alive. At least that's how mine is when they installed it. But it is software that will need to be installed on your laptop or your school computer. So I'm very excited for whoever gets this.
So whoever, if you don't win, please go to alivestudiosco.com to check out their website. Also go to Greg's blog, thekindergartensmorgasbord.com. You can see a video there of how he uses Letters Alive in his classroom. You're going to shortly see how he uses Math Alive in his classroom.
Yes, I'm super excited for Math Alive.
As well as Storybooks Alive,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah. And I just yesterday on YouTube or the day before, I posted a mashup of all of the videos of my kids and us using Letters Alive. So you can really get an idea of what it looks like in the classroom, and you can really get an idea of how excited the kids get.
All right, people are having fits here in the chat. They're like biting their fingernails and so the winner of
If only I were Oprah, I could give one to everybody.
Well, someone said that earlier. They said we were hoping it was going to be like Oprah and everybody was going to win one. We actually did that one time.
We did. ESGI was very gracious, and we've done some, we called them board meetings here at the house, and we have a bunch of teachers come over, and we just sit around and share ideas and talk about teaching in classrooms. And one of those meetings, ESGI was very generous and let us surprise everybody who was here. And we got to give everybody here a year of ESGI.
And if you go on YouTube, you can see a video of that. It was hilarious. He was like, you get ESGI. You get ESGI.
I totally got to be Oprah.
It was hilarious.
All right, let's give this away.
Okay, moving on. So the winner is,
Here we go.
Susan Russell, Susie Q. Susie Q, I think you're here a lot. I remember that name. I think I see you almost every month.
Yay, congratulations.
Congratulations, Susie Q. Are you here?
So we'll give Susie some time to let the delay process. And before we go, I want to say a big thank you to Chris for taking some time away from his holidays and his family to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I definitely want to say a big thank you to Chad for getting on a plane and coming and hanging out here in Nashville with us.
Thanks.
And also want to say thank you to everybody who joins in every month and watches. And I do have to say a big shout out to Chad, because I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but he's also like a big help in the chat every month.
He is, yes. Let me do that. Because seriously, people are always asking, well, how do I get into chat? What do I do? And asking questions. And he helps to answer a lot of those questions. How to get to enter the giveaways. He's always there.
Oh, you're awesome too.
So thank you, Chris and Chad.
Before we go, though, a couple other things really quick. I want Chris and Chad, tell everybody how they get to your website, how they can find you, how they can follow you.
Susie's there. I don't know if you saw her. I just saw her.
I got her.
I was looking right at the chat. I had to
Susie's like, I want it.
I don't even know what the question was because I was just watching for Susie.
The question, I just said, I want you and Chad to both tell everyone how they can find your blog, how they can follow you on social media, just how they can connect with you.
All right, Chris, go for it.
Okay, my blog is famousinfirst.com. So famousinfirst.com. That's my Instagram and Twitter as well. So if you have any questions I saw some popping through that said my name. If you just tweet me at famousinfirst, I promise I'll reply to you. So at famousinfirst, I'll type it in the comments.
We'll get a copy of the chat to Chris and Chad so they can go back and look at any questions that they might want to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea.
All right, Chad.
And my blog is malekindergartenteacher.com, and that's also my Instagram, my Instagram and my Facebook, and then my Twitter is just male K teacher.
Yeah, and I think we're all three on Periscope. So follow us there too. So again, thank you, Chris and Chad, for hanging out tonight. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who always tunes in and watches every month. And you're in the chat participating, and not only are you asking questions in the chat, but you're sharing ideas and helping each other. So just a huge thank you for going on this crazy journey with us that we started on a whim a year ago. It's crazy that we started doing these a year ago, and what they've kind of grown into. And I know a lot of people look forward to them, and it's kind of I know people set reminders and schedule things around these. And so thank you for everybody who watches and supports us and takes time out of your day to be a part of this. And just remember, at the end of the day, this isn't about the three of us.
It's about you.
And it's about all of us as teachers doing everything we can to give our kids the best possible education every day. And at the end of the day, it's not about what we're doing or who's reading our blogs or what negative Nancy is saying about any of us. It's at the end of the day, it's all about the kids. And we want what's best for our kids, and not only in our classrooms, but in every classroom. And so I know, I think I speak for all of us. If there's anything any of us can ever do or any way we can help you, let us know. But again, thank you not only for supporting us, but thank you for what you do in your classrooms every day, for showing up and for giving your kids a safe, supportive place to learn, and for loving your kids and taking care of them and meeting their needs, whether it's academic or other things. And also want to give a shout out to Kayla, my friend Kayla, and our Happy Classrooms. So we're really hoping to see Happy Classrooms blow up on social media this year. So what we ask is that every day on social media, you post one happy thing that happened in your classroom that day, one positive thing from your classroom, and you use the hashtag Happy Classrooms. And our mission is to take over the conversation about education and turn it away from the negative of teaching, and let the world know what all the awesome things that we're doing in our classrooms and the awesome things that our kids are doing. So thank you everybody for watching. And again, thank you for all that you do for your kids and for teaching. And thank you for your support. And we love you guys. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Chad.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.